minutes.
Thank the gentlelady for yielding. Madam Speaker, as we speak, the FBI is treating parents as terrorists. The Department of Justice is getting ready to pay people $450,000 who illegally entered our country, and Democrats in Congress later this week plan to spend $2 trillion more, which we all know will only exacerbate the already 30-year high inflation. And what are they doing today? Censoring a member for a cartoon. You got to be kidding me. You have got to be kidding me. The attack, what scares me most about all this is the attack that we have seen on the First Amendment over the last year from the left, from the Democrat Party. They're attacking moms for standing up and speaking at a school board meeting. They're stopping Americans. There are still places in this country where a full congregation cannot meet on a Sunday morning, stopping Americans from exercising their First Amendment freedom of religious rights. Stopping forever, the Speaker of the House stopped Americans from petitioning their member of Congress to redress their grievances, wouldn't even let them in their own capital. And now here we go again, censoring speech. The most fundamental liberty we have is our right to speak, our right to talk, our right to communicate, and they're going after that today because they don't like freedom. You can see it. They don't like it. This is wrong. We know it's wrong. What they're doing to our colleague, Mr. Gosar, is wrong, and I hope they will have second thoughts and we will vote this down. I yield back.
Gentleman from Florida.
Yield a minute and 15 seconds to Ethics Committee member from Minnesota, Mr. Phillips.
Gentleman is recognized for 1 minute and 15 seconds.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I love freedom. I love George Washington. I keep this book on my desk, George Washington's Rules of Civility and Decent Behavior. I encourage every colleague in this body, every one of us, keep this on your desk, refer to it. I've heard everything talked about today, inflation, Afghanistan, schools, except the issue we're here for, a censure of a member of Congress who issued a despicable video showing the killing of a fellow member of Congress. Worst of all, most despicable of all, the object of the censure said it was to attract a new generation. Think about that. To attract a new generation of Americans. We got to do better, my friends. Come on. And to my friend from Virginia who said, if Democrats had done this, what would we do? Rest assured, my friends, every one of you, we would do the same thing because I will never, ever, ever allow a fellow member of Congress to threaten or distribute a video showing the killing of one of us, let alone another American. With that, I yield back.
Gentlelady from Indiana.
Madam Speaker, I'm pleased to yield 1 minute to the gentlewoman from Colorado, Mrs. Boebert.
Gentlelady is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Democrat policies are so pathetic and have done so poorly that the left has nothing else to do but troll the internet looking for ways to get offended and then try to target members and strip them of their committees. This is a dumb waste of the House's time. But since the Speaker has designated the floor to discuss members' inappropriate actions, shall we? The Jihad Squad member from Minnesota has paid her husband, and not her brother husband, the other one, over $1 million in campaign funds. This member is allowed on the Foreign Affairs Committee while praising terrorists. A Democrat chairwoman incited further violence in the streets outside of a courthouse. And then the cherry on top, my colleague and 3-month presidential candidate from California, who is on the Intelligence Committee, slept with Fang Fang, a Chinese spy. Let me say that again. A member of Congress who receives classified briefings was sleeping with the enemy. This is unacceptable, and this would never be.
Time's expired. Gentleman from Florida.
Madam Speaker, I yield 1 minute to Ethics Committee member from Pennsylvania, Ms. Wild.
Gentlelady is recognized for 1 minute.
As Maya Angelou said, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Despite Paul Gosar's history of dangerous rhetoric and despite his conduct showing him to be a dangerous extremist, he is still here in Congress. Now he has depicted himself killing one of our colleagues and the President of the United States. Never doubt that leaders' calls for violence can lead to actual violence. We've seen it throughout the world, and we've seen it right here on January 6th. Nor should the actions of his taxpayer-paid staff in creating and disseminating this vile video be ignored. They are grown adults. and they have cultivated a hostile work environment for the subject of this disgusting video and for her staff. Paul Gosar has glorified violence against a duly elected official who came here to serve her district. She nor any of us signed up for this kind of abuse. Our families should not have to live with the fear that we'll be subject to violent attacks. Paul Gosar has shown us who he is. Believe him, censure him.
Gentlelady from Indiana.
Madam Speaker, I am pleased to yield 2 minutes to the gentleman from South Carolina, Mr. Rice.
Gentleman's recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. With so many real problems facing Americans created by the Biden administration, open borders, soaring gas prices, sky-high grocery bills, and our embarrassment in Afghanistan, my friends across the aisle assemble us here today to debate a cartoon. Political cartoons routinely depict violence. It's not new. Cartoons have depicted violence since there were cartoons. If you don't believe me, Google political cartoons 2021. You'll see a depiction of Joe Biden killing a Republican with a steamroller, a Republican elephant trampling voters, among many others. Now, I'll ask all of you out there to watch the Gosar cartoon that is occupying the floor of the United States Congress for over an hour today. Is it inappropriate? Yes. Childish? Of course. Stupid? Without question. But is it a threat? Absolutely not. Now, I know some members may need to seek therapy because they saw this cartoon. But is it a threat? Absolutely not. I yield back.
Gentleman from Florida.
Madam Speaker, I yield 1 minute to the Assistant Speaker, Ms. Clark.
Gentlelady is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you for yielding. It started with the white supremacist online fringe movement, and it turned into a deadly January 6th insurrection. And now I stand before you because a member of this body has once again had her life threatened, but this time by a colleague who posted a video of killing her on his official account. Think of that. And it's no coincidence that the recipients of this violence are most often women and women of color, because this violence is directly connected to sexism and racism. We cannot and must not accept this behavior. And silence and excuse is condoning it. And the excuses we have heard today, this is okay because it's highly stylized killing. It's a cartoon. It was some sort of youth outreach, are grotesque. Enough is enough. Vote for this resolution. Vote for censure. Vote for decency.
Gentlelady from Indiana.
Madam Speaker, I reserve.
Gentlelady reserves. Gentleman from Florida.
Madam Speaker, I yield 1 minute to the Vice Caucus Chair, Mr. Aguilar of California.
Gentleman's recognized for 1 minute.
I thank the chairman. When an armed mob stormed the Capitol earlier this year, they did so under the belief that political violence was an acceptable means to an end. As leaders and as members of this body, every one of us has a responsibility to stand up and to make clear that way of thinking is unacceptable. We have a responsibility here to work together to keep our colleagues, our staff, and all of the people who work in this building safe. That goal becomes more difficult when members are making open threats of violence on social media. It is not acceptable for a member of the House to insinuate that they want to violently kill a member, and we need to directly respond to this threat. Today, we have a chance to send a strong, unified, bipartisan message against this kind of conduct. I urge my colleagues to vote yes on the resolution to ensure accountability and recommit ourselves to the safety of every member and the future member of this body. Thank you. Yield back.
Gentlelady from Indiana.
I reserve.
Gentleman from Florida.
Madam Speaker, I yield 1 minute to the Chairman of the House Democratic Caucus, Mr. Jeffries.
Gentleman's recognized for 1 minute.
I rise in strong support of this censure resolution. Inciting violence is unacceptable. Threatening to kill a colleague, the President of the United States, or any American is unacceptable. And I rise to make it clear that we have an opportunity today to choose decency over demonization, to choose civility over cynicism, to choose the rule of law over recklessly violent behavior. That is why the House of Representatives is acting and acting decisively. We cannot normalize violence today. We cannot normalize violence tomorrow. We cannot normalize violence at any point moving forward in our future. The House will hold Paul Gosar accountable for his violent and deplorable behavior. Whether the cover-up caucus likes it or not, vote yes on this censure resolution.
Gentlemen.